Oh, welcome to Syntax. On this Monday Hasty Treat, we're going to be talking all about Pocketbase. Now, Pocketbase is a newer player to this game of backends for your application. And let me tell you, this one really strikes the perfect balance for me between a CMS and the whole ORM type of platform. It does a lot for you and it makes it really easy and it looks great doing it. So we're going to be diving all into what is Pocketbase, what you need to know about this thing. And before we do that, my name is Scott Talinsky. I'm a developer from Denver. With me as always is Wes Boss. What's up, Wes?
Hey, I have been looking. You've been talking about this Pocket Base for a while, and this seems really cool. It kind of reminds me of like back in the Graph Cool days, where
Oh
like you'd sign
yeah.
up and you get like a database and an API all in one. But like this also does auth and file storage. I'm very curious to hear a bit more about this, and it's local, right? Like it's not some service.
That's correct. In fact, there is no service for it. Unlike
Oh.
maybe like Supabase or any of those, there isn't a path to just sign up at pocketbase.com and get something going. It's self-hosted entirely.
I always do the whole like search for pricing. You land on something and it's like open source, and you're like, where's the pricing tab? You know?
Command F pricing is something that I have firmly ingrained into my muscle memory. So before we do that, if you're hosting software of any kind, it's going to be great to have a service like Sentry at Sentry.io to track not only just your performance, how fast things are loading, but also if there's any errors and how you can solve them quickly and easily. And since Pocketbase here is written in Go, you can use Sentry with Go or you can use it with JavaScript, TypeScript, anything you want. Sentry's got an API for it, a package for it, a setup for it. And heck, they might even have a wizard for it. Wes, I added Sentry to the syntax site when we were developing the syntax site, and it was like a one-click command, and the wizard inserted everything with a code mod into our code base. I didn't have to write any code to get Sentry going. So shout out to Sentry for that. And this show is presented by Sentry. Head on over to sentry.io/syntax, sign up and get 2 months for free. Let's get into it. Pocketbase. So you haven't seen this at all, or have you seen this website, or what's your
Oh
familiarity
yeah.
here?
Yeah, I've been researching it. I've not run it myself, but I've gone to it a few times. We always get recommended it, and then I know that you built your breakdancing app in it,
Yeah.
that I saw, and like you did it on the flight with your kids, and I was like, oh, that's obviously a get up and
uh,
running extremely fast type of thing. So I'm curious to hear more about it.
I feel like that's a flex is to that the fact that I was, and you'll see this app in a second. I built this app on an airplane when that wasn't even that long of a flight from Denver to Miami, and I'll show you in a second what I got out of it. But all from scratch, no libraries except for Pocketbase. So if you're listening to this on audio, we will be showing some things on video here. So if you want to watch this at youtube.com/at syntax FM, you'll be able to see exactly what we're talking about. We will do a good job of describing everything, and it's not going to be, you're not going to lose anything, but you will gain something if you watch it in the video
There you
form.
go. And
So
Spotify. If you're on Spotify, just open the app and you can see what we're talking about.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's a huge win for Spotify, honestly.
I use that a lot. Often I'm like listening to something and then you hear them talking about something as a reference. So I'll just open the app and watch it for a few seconds and then close it and keep going on audio.
Yeah. And also, fair warning here: these websites, there's no dark mode, so my glasses are going to be shining all episode long. First and foremost, what is Pocketbase? Pocketbase is a modern backend for your UI. It allows to create collections, it allows to create schemas and data, and allows you to store that data in a database. It gives you authentication, it gives you real-time storage. It's basically a dream backend that you could possibly, come up with here. And it's really, really super easy. So it is a competitor to any of these kind of headless UI backends that you might have seen. Takes the same space as something like Supabase, takes the same space as Contentful. What are some of these other
Okay.
ones?
Sanity.
Sanity.
Okay. So if you're trying to like understand, like, okay, I want to build an application. I want to build a mobile app. I want to build something. There's a couple things you're going to need, right? You're going to need a database. You're going to need a ORM or something that sits on top and allows you to give you queries. You're going to need a server. You're going to need to write the code to build an API so that you can interface with it. You're going to need file storage to upload images and videos and logs and things like that. And then you're going to need auth so that the access control of those types of things. And Keystone is another really good example of that. We've talked about that in the past. And this does all of those things, right? Where you just,
Yes.
it gives you, it does not give you templating or front end, or I guess there is like a JavaScript SDK, but like there's no implementing this in like React hooks or something like that. It's simply just like the whole backend part of your application.
Yeah. And you could, and I have written an application without a backend at all and just using Pocketbase for the entirety of the backend. I think that works really great. It's a really super full featured, but on top of that, many of these projects that do this kind of full featured nature, there's caveats here. It doesn't do this well, doesn't do that well, but the UI is fantastic and it does everything well. There's so many small pockets inside of this thing that are just really, really well considered and well thought out. So again, it's a backend. It handles anything that your backend might need to handle. It's self-hosted, so you can host it anywhere. You can host it for free on fly.io. There's instructions here. I host mine on Coolify. It's a one-click install, but it's an app you can host anywhere. It uses SQLite, and the SQLite instance can handle 10,000 plus real-time connections on a $4 VPS. So fast, can handle scaling whatever you need. It's built on top of Go. That's not something you really need to think about. You can extend it, modify it with Dart and JavaScript, but honestly, I haven't even needed to extend it at all. I haven't needed to write or learn anything about Go, so that's not a concern of mine, but it's very fast, and maybe that's why.
Oh, it looks like, yeah, there is a JavaScript API like you just said, and I was thinking that is, if, oh, it's great, but when you need to step in and do
hmm
something totally custom, are you able to do that? So it looks like there are a bunch of hooks where you can just kind of jump in and do something like send an email. Although it looks like email sending is also built in.
Email sending is also built in, and the hooks
That's
here are for
pretty
like
nifty.
anything. If you want to do something before the mailer went out, before the update request, anything, you can step into the process with these hooks, like Wes said. And this is hooks like the correct way of using hooks, not the React the React way of using hooks. As in, this is hooking into your application and
Yeah, it's
allowing
almost
you to
like a
step in.
middleware.
Yeah, that it's hooks in the way that Rails had hooks or, any of that stuff. Okay, handles authentication, but it also handles roles. So roles and access roles, who can access what, who can create what, who can delete what, that's all taken care of through the UI. It also has 15 plus OAuth providers with a UI to install them, which you gotta love. Real time, like I said, you can connect to S3 easily for file uploads, or you can just upload to the file system itself without connecting to S3. But the S3 config makes it easy. We'll show you that. Email templates and more. So that's kind of like the base of everything. And I'm going to show you some of the things that I've done in it and what it looks like generally in the backend, because we mentioned that you can host for free at fly.io. We'll link to instructions for that. I have not done that, but I have installed with a one-click in Coolify. It's easy to host. Okay. Let's look at the backend here because I built this app. It's called The Break. You can quickly and easily add moves and stuff. I built this in a flight to Miami. There's all sorts of little tools in here, gesture support, whatever. This is all being done directly with Pocketbase, and there is no backend for this. It's a client-side only application built in SvelteKit. So the admin experience, when you get into Pocketbase, It looks a little something like this, where you have your users collection by default. The users collection can be extended just like any of these other collections. If you want to add fields onto the user collection, you could either do it this way or through kind of like a field reference or something. But if you click these little gears at any given point in the UI, it gives you the ability to, like I said, edit the collection in a
Ah,
way where you can add a new field. We'll
so this
talk
is like
about
your schema implementation.
Correct. If you've ever
Okay.
been a part of Drupal, this is your content. What do they got? I'm like been so long out of the Drupal game. Custom fields. This is your WordPress custom fields. This is your schema, whatever. What's cool is that the field options are more than just kind of basic database fields, and that's the thing that I think Pocketbase does really well. Is it translates the database type of fields into things that you actually use and care about, especially as a UI developer. So many times we get into like a database admin and they're like, would you like to add a big int? Or would you like to add a, whatever? And sometimes, I want to say, oh, this is a URL or this is an email, plain text, or I want a rich text editor, maybe for a WYSIWYG type of experience. So this is very much less database heavy language and much more CMS heavy language. It's this like perfect hybrid for me between a CMS where it gets out of the way for the front end,
Yeah.
but also does all the database stuff.
And when you add a field here, does that also mirror it to some config file, or does this done entirely in this UI?
That's a great question because I've never had to look for a config file because the UI is that good. There's just about no times where I'm like, man, I wish this was a ugly ass config file.
Okay, so you want to send me your app to use.
Yes.
How does my app know what the UI is? Because we've talked about this before. Click ops, right?
Yes.
Do you have to tell me to make them? Oh, there you go. That's what I'm looking for. So Scott just showed me a JSON collection of that type of thing.
Yes, I am not positive if you're able to just edit this straight up. Anybody who is more experienced with Pocketbase, if you want to leave a comment below, if you can just edit this. This is for exporting and importing,
Yeah.
but there is a JSON representation of these fields.
Yeah, it
So
feels like you would want to like put that in your Git config, wouldn't you? Because like that's your whole backend
mm,
schema is based on that.
yeah, yeah, I would get that. That makes sense to me. Anytime I've done this, I've just had one instance. I haven't had like the full application set up because the way I
Yeah.
see this is the same way I see a CMS like Drupal or WordPress. Like if I'm doing a Word or a Drupal client application, I don't. There wasn't too many times where I had like a really separate separatization of maybe prod and staging and whatever, but I'm sure there's definitely workflows for
I'm
that
sure
as
you can
well.
get to that. I think
Yeah.
the huge benefit here is that like often when you have an idea, you don't necessarily care about
Yes.
that type of thing. Even like I find myself being like, I need to save this somewhere. I guess I'll make a quick schema. I guess I'll quickly get a SQLite file. And like,
Running
yeah, that's pretty quick.
migrations.
But yeah, this is even faster.
It For the amount of times that I want to spin up a quick site that has auth and data,
Yeah.
I can actually get an instance like I'll do this as a speed run on our YouTube channel. I can get this going in no time. And I built templates now for Auth and SvelteKit. So I'll be able to get something up and running in less than 5 minutes with Auth and data of a custom schema. So one of the cool things here, and let's actually look at some of these other ones. So I made my own schema here, my own collection, and these are all the different fields. One of these fields is a reference to a user. And I'll show you how we do that real quick. You can do that simply by using this connection, right? So if you do a new field, you select a relation, and all you do is select the other collection you want to relate, and you say whether you can do single or multiple, right? That's a one-to-one or one-to-many, many-to-many type of thing. Another thing that you have here, if you're looking at this, is you can quickly and easily add indexes. So there's a button for new index, and sure enough is the actual SQL that you can write, but you can just click around and create indexes that way. API rules are where you set up the rules for who can access, update, or any of that stuff. So they give you API rules that are search rules, okay? So can you list or search? And for this one, the way I have it, since moves are private in my breakdancing app, only the requested auth ID has to equal the user ID for the collection. So only the person who created that move can see it. Only the person who created they can search it or view it. Anybody can create a move. You just need an account. Anyone can update a move as long as the user ID is equal to the auth ID and delete. So all your CRUD stuff right here. Don't even have to consider it. Don't have to write guards for it. It's just in your backend here and it works. Super simple, super easy to configure.
Does
And
that have the ability to do like a more complex evaluation? Because I remember like Firebase had that, and then when you wanted to get into a little bit more complicated, where you can update this item if you own it, or if you have the like a specific role, or if you are an admin. And I would get into these like really complex like declarative rules where often I find myself being like, I just want
mm,
like a function that returns true or false, which is Keystone has that. Keystone allows you to like declaratively pass a true or false, create, read, update, delete, or you can pass a function which will either return true or false based on your calculation.
yeah, and this is very much like that. You have these text boxes you can type in, but it is basically just operators here where you have
Oh yeah,
access
gives
to
you the
any of
whole
the current
request.
information.
Headers, method, data.
String ampersands together to have multiple parameters or modifiers and additional conditionals on there. But you can even get into things like they have macros, special identifiers like today's start, today's end, month start.
Oh,
So
cool.
you can get into a whole bunch of stuff. One of the things that I really admire about Pocketbase is everything that you would want is here. Like whenever you think about like, oh, it'd be really great if I had, oh, it's here. Okay, never mind. uh, it's very modern and well thought out in that way.
This whole thing is just made by one guy,
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yanni from Bulgaria.
He rules. And the design on this thing
Wow.
is exquisite. Even like this is the type of UI I might even give to somebody as a WordPress or an admin UI. When you create a
Yeah.
record, you could even get like a WYSIWYG in here. If I want to, any of this stuff, a user picker, the select list, or even searchable. Like the UI for the admin interface is really top tier. So that's all great. So another cool thing I like about this that you're going to like, Wes, is that anytime you create a collection, like regardless of whatever collection you're on, you have this API preview button in here, and that opens a drawer that isn't just how to do X, Y, and Z. It's how to do X, Y, and Z with the current collection that you're using.
Oh,
So
that's nice.
if you want a list of all of the moves, you just click, select what you want here and click it. Oh, if you want here, get full list and sort by the date they were created. Oh, yeah. All you got to do is select and copy this and paste it into your app. It's really pretty incredible. The API docs that are included
When
here.
docs have context of your application, it's the best. Like Stripe does that at a very high level, which is the copy paste examples include your tokens, and I love that because it understands like you don't have to copy paste it, and that's where the issues pop up. Oh,
Yes.
you it was move, you type move and it was moves with an S,
Yeah.
you burned half an hour on that and all those annoying things. So I love it when docs are integrated like this.
Yeah. You know who else does that? Sentry does that. Whenever you log in, and you're a part of a project and you're looking at like the docs, it gives you your API keys and URLs and links and stuff where you need them. But you can see here that the only thing you really need here is you install Pocketbase and then you say new Pocketbase, you pass in your URL to the app, to the like Pocketbase instance, and then from there it's just pb.collection, give it your collection, get list, whatever. And again, like I said, all of these API methods that exist here are just over here, shows you what's optional. The docs for this thing are incredible that it just gives you real time, whatever. It's all just here. But before we go, let's actually look at some more stuff here. We have logs for everything, gives you detailed logs about what's going on in your application. But I really, really, really love the settings because the settings give you a host of options here. Like by default, mail just works. Now, it just works coming from your server and it's probably going to go into spam or not be what you want. You can, whatever your support or sender address is. So they give you a really easy way to use an SMTP server. You just paste it in there. You can even get all kinds of options that you might want. There are default email templates up the wazoo in this thing. So the email verification template, the email reset your password template, any of these things are just here.
And I have a question about like the actual code part. So like when you obviously install this thing locally, it's actually a bit weird because it's you download like a executable. It's not
Mm,
like a npm install, which I think they should do that. I know it's Go, but they probably could ship the Pocketbase server as like an npm start thing, which I think would be a little bit more because like as soon as I started it, my OS is like this is from an unidentified developer,
mhm.
and you got to like jump through a whole bunch of hoops. So I tried it twice now, and I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, you npm install something and then you connect to that endpoint with their SDK JavaScript SDK.
Yep. That's it right
Okay,
here. These first two lines right here.
is it fully typed? Is there type? Do you get typings? Like how's the connection between that work?
Yeah, so there is like TypeScript typings for Pocket Base itself, but not all of your collections. I'll have a
Oh,
link
okay.
at the bottom of this called Pocket Base TypeGen, and that's
That's
a
what you
plugin
want.
you install. You run it post install or whatever. It gives you fully typed collections. So all of my collections are fully typed because I ran Pocket Base TypeGen.
Oh, cool.
So back to settings with the mail settings, file storage is as simple as by default it uses the local file system, but you can just quickly and easily give it an endpoint, a bucket, access key, and secret, and automatically have file uploads go directly to S3. That is sick, easy file uploads. You can set up backups. So you can have auto backups. You can store your backups in S3. Like I said, like any little nicety you might think of, this thing has it. Again, export and import collections we talked about already. Look at these auth providers. You can configure auth providers with a nice UI in a very simple way. Just, enter your information here. Pocketbase takes care of it. You have all of your token options, how long you want auth tokens to last, and all those things. And then you can control who's an admin and everything like that. So, when you were saying you were trying to run it as an executable, I've almost always to get this started, just throwing it up on a cloud provider to start. I'm sure it's easy enough to run locally, especially maybe your Docker head or something like that. But for me, I'm just throwing it up on the cloud because the way I'm using this right now is for
It's
smaller
production right
projects,
away.
production right away, but also like the types of things I would have reached for a CMS for in the past. So for me, just throwing it up online and then connecting to it auth, now you're good to go. Like I said, that was the reason why I was able to put this together so quickly and have it just work, right?
Beautiful. Cool. Well, I'm certainly gonna try this out. I need to get a Coolify running. I really want to do it on my like local server, like my Synology, just
Mhm.
for the sake of doing that. Because things like this where you're like, I want to run it really quickly and I don't feel like having to spin up a $5 server and
Yeah,
have somewhere to throw it.
I know. It's really pretty incredible. I would show you my Coolify here if you wanna see what the one-click install for that looks like.
Sure. Yeah, let's see it.
Okay, cool. So I'll show you really quick before we go here how exactly I got this up and running in Coolify very quickly. You can see this is my Coolify instance, and what's funny is that these are all hosted on one droplet, one DigitalOcean droplet that I've just had around forever. I have a lot of referral cache at DigitalOcean. So let's say I wanted to get a Coolify project up and running. You would head to projects, you would click add, you would say syntax Coolify, click continue. So we have our application. This is production. I'm going to click add a resource. The resource that I'm going to add, if we just scroll down, we just find Pocket Base right here. I click it. I click install this on localhost, standalone Docker, a few clicks, and it's installing, and then we'll be up and running in just a
Man.
second. And then we could even see this get up and running here, Wes. Not we don't have to install or anything, but I'll just show you how quick this is because we did this, while I'm talking you through it.
Yeah.
So the service has started. You can see it started. It gives you a
That's
URL.
faster than NPM installing it, honestly.
Yes. And then we go to /_/.
Wow.
Ta-da! And you
That's
can log in.
insane.
Yep. Scott. Oh, minimum of 8 characters. Come on. There we go. We got a back end. That's it.
Wow.
Up and running. You can connect to it with the URL, and you already have your users collection with user email, all that stuff, avatar.
That's sweet.
This is why I love this thing. I can toss up a Pocketbase in a matter of seconds. So check it out if you're interested in this project. I'll have some code examples and stuff from projects that I'm working on if you want to see the svelte implementation of some of the stuff I'm doing. But really cool project. Huge fan of this thing. So check it out at pocketbase.io.
Wicked. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you later.
Peace.
Peace.